Football, family, and absolutely no filter. This is the Football Fan Fanatics podcast, bringing you the best and worst of the beautiful game every single week. I'm James Palin, your host, and I've dragged my mum, Nadine Dereza, along for the ride to put the world of football to rights. Managers on the hot seat, transfers that make no sense, and the moments that make you fall in love with the game all over again. We've got it all covered. So, whether you're a diehard, you got a season ticket and you go every week, or you're just a casual and want to know a bit more about the game, you're in the right place. So let's crack on. Nadine, please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm your mum. I don't think you've ever called me Nadine before. Yeah, I'm a QPR season ticket holder for my sins, and I worked in football many years ago. I was at the club in my early 20s. I was the match announcer, I think the first female to do that in top flight football. So I had to decide who was the goal scorer. Not easy because we didn't have CCTV then. So, especially a midweek game, dark, everyone's in the 6 yard box and it was down to me to decide the goal scorer, do the substitutions, everything you'd expect of a match announcer, and playing some records or tunes. So yeah, really loved my time there, and I'm a QPR season ticket holder, sit in the upper loft, and it hasn't been pretty over the last few years. Finished 15th. Oh joy.
Yeah, well, I've got the same story at Everton. Not much joy, no trophies, no promotions, no nothing. In fact, we're the only team in the 92 in the 21st century that hasn't had anything to celebrate. So every other team in the 92 has either had a promotion playoff, win, a promotion, a trophy of some degree. Everton haven't had any of that, so it's not much fun. Anyway, we're
No.
gonna go straight in. We're gonna be talking about the World Cup, but first we're gonna dive into Southampton, a very controversial case. For anyone who's been living under a rock, could you explain to them, Nadeem, what exactly is going on at Southampton?
Well, within 15 days, I mean, Southampton FC's season and livelihood kind of unravelled, didn't it? Because they were great guns. You know, they had their new manager, Urquhart, since I think November, December time, and Southampton looked like they were going to sort of like storm the championship and potentially go up in second place. Not quite, but they made it to the playoffs and obviously got to the FA Cup semi-final. So this was a huge surprise to find out that they'd been spying on three teams. That's teams that we know about. And as a result of that, they weren't allowed to play in the championship final. So Middlesbrough then took their place, who they defeated over two legs in the semi. And one of the teams they've been spying on was Middlesbrough. And then a whole thing unravelled, that the fact that they've been spying on other teams, have admitted to three. I'm just wondering if there's more actually that we just don't know
Mm.
about. And as a result of that, then Hull then played Middlesbrough, and Hull, who I think finished in sixth place, ended
Mm.
up being promoted to the Premiership. So it's a big deal because we have this figure of £200 million banded around. Why is that, James? Is it the Premier League rights? Is it the footy rights that come along with being a Premier club if you are promoted?
Yeah, there's so much to it. There's obviously television rights, there's sponsorships, there's so many things. The Premier League's just the gap between the two divisions. You know, the Championship's a fantastic league. It really is. It's really competitive,
Oh, it's a
but
tough league.
it's nowhere near the scale of the Premier League, which is just growing and growing and growing. It's a huge deal, and I think Southampton fans feel aggrieved. They not necessarily feel aggrieved at the decision, but at their manager for doing this when, you know, they were on a really good run of form, winning games, scoring lots of goals. You know, they were towards the end of the season, they were on an unbelievable run, a win streak. So they were going into the playoffs with lots of confidence as it is, and then obviously winning late on in that second leg against Borough, they think, here we go, we're in the final against Hull, we're going to be the favourites. And then to have it snatched away from you like that, you've got to feel sorry for Southampton fans, but at the same time, you can't do that. You can't. It is cheating, and they they've been punished and deservedly so. And the funny thing is that you casuals might not know about is how they actually got caught. Uh, they had a spy that they sent and there's footage of him taking photos of the training, but no one actually caught him at the training. The way they got him was there was a bit of a suspicious trend of the same person going to coffee shops nearby, buying coffees with the same credit card throughout the season. So it's appeared a few times, and through that they've managed to catch this guy, linked him back to the man at the training who's been taking these videos, and that's how they've been done essentially.
But is that true though? Because I thought someone from Middlesbrough had actually spotted him standing behind a tree and confronted him. And we
No,
talked about this peculiar.
that is true, but they then use that to link it back to other bits of evidence, and they saw that he'd used that card to buy a coffee, and he'd been doing that throughout the course, and that really helped the case against Southampton in finding them to be guilty. And then there's a whole other part of it as well, with WhatsApp messages that have emerged of not the manager directly saying anything, but a spokesperson for him saying the manager's really like pleased with the footage that you've got for him. So that clearly proves that he's part of it, and that he was aware of what was going on, the driver of it, you could say. So
Yeah, he was, but he's come from Germany. I mean, he's a very young manager coach, isn't he? I think he's in his 30s. And am I right in thinking that you are allowed to, spy or check out what other teams are doing in the likes of Italy and Germany? And in fact, it was only when I think it was Belser at Leeds was caught
yes.
spying a few years ago that's when this issue came to light, and then rules came about. So there's clear rules that you can't actually observe another team's training 72 hours before a game, and that's what they fell foul of. But actually, Urquhart, his defence is that he didn't realise this was a rule.
Mm.
But the analysts team and the young chap, because I wrote a piece about it as well, William Salt, he was the analyst intern, bless him, was the fall guy in many ways. But actually, it's come out now that he was pressurised to do this. And he actually pushed back. He kept saying, I don't think this is the right thing to do. Now, maybe he didn't know the exact rules that means that you're not allowed to do it. And if anybody loves their rules, then, and you want to look it up, is EFL Regulations 3.4, I'm sounding like a robot now, and 127.1, whatever that means. And he did push back against it. And the owner of Southampton has said, well, he should have disagreed harder. Yeah, right. Would he still been an intern? He'd have been marched out the door and we wouldn't have heard about it. So it's the fact that they put him in this position, and they even got him to wear an Eastleigh top. So when he was looking at the Ipswich game, one of the three games that we know that they spied on, they kitted him out in an Eastleigh football shirt, because that's where they did their training, Ipswich, to make it look like he was one of the locals. So this was very devious. This is well thought through. And I'm glad in a way it's come out, because I think for the likes of, interns like William Salt, he would have taken the blame and we'd never heard about it. And he would have had his dreams and hopes dashed. Whereas actually, this disciplinary panel, and there's some controversy around that as well, which I sort of don't buy into, but I can understand why some people are upset about, is that two members of the panel have a connection with Middlesbrough, a very tenuous, a very tentative connection. But even so, when you're putting a panel together, anything that's got a connection to Middlesbrough, even if it's really small, i.e. somebody being connected to the club with one game, and then a solicitor being connected with some work they did with the club previously, shouldn't have been on the panel. But you can't accuse them of bias. In the end, Southampton have been caught out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the $1 million question is it worth it? Do
No,
you think? No, exactly. I mean, maybe. Well, I'm not sure what the results were on the other teams that they spied on, whether they won those games or not. But ultimately, this
they
has proven
didn't.
it's.
They didn't.
There you go. But this has proven, regardless of winning, it's just not worth risking that. Obviously, it's normal in football to analyze tactical trends of other teams, watch videos, watch them in games, but actually going in trespassing on a private training session is simply not allowed. And they've ultimately paid the price for it, haven't they? And what do you think? What do you think this will do for football now?
Well, I mean, obviously in the Championship, Southampton will be in the Championship again next season, -4 points. This will create some lively singing at Championship games when you're playing against Southampton. So
Yes.
they're not going to get away with that all season. That is going to be rich for ribbing, and they're just going to have to take it on the chin. I think because people were quite shocked at the severity of the penalty. I mean, I wasn't. I thought it was fair play because actually you've got three clear case incidents of cheating. But also, I think the culture behind Southampton it goes deeper than that because I spoke to Ross, my mate, who's an Oxford United fan, and he said when they played St Mary's, they deliberately, Southampton, moved the advertising hoardings in so that their two players who were good at long throws would
Mm.
have less room to throw in, to try and create havoc in that 6 yard box. So already, their tactics were a little bit underhand. I don't think cheating in football is anything new, but they've been very overt about it. So what will it do for football? Well, I think football needs to be a bit clearer as well as to what exactly are the penalties, because
Mm.
nobody knew going into that investigation, even though Southampton eventually did cooperate. I mean, at first they still tried to skirt around the truth and hoped that the full truth wouldn't come out. Sorry, I'm not buying the fact that they didn't realise that junior members had been pressurised at
Yes.
the
Yeah.
full scale of it. So they've moved the goalposts on it themselves. But I think football itself maybe has to be stricter as to if you do this, this is what will happen to you. So this is the fine you will get. These are the points that be deducted, and this will be the penalty if you're up for the playoffs and we find that you've cheated in it. So maybe a clear code of conduct as to what the punishment should be. I don't. What do you think, James? Is that sounding dull and boring?
No, no, I completely agree, and I don't think it's just this. I think it's we've seen points deductions in the Premier League as well, with the likes of Everton, for example. Uh, I think it's really important that clubs know what the punishments are going to be rather than risking things essentially or doing things because if they know the punishments and we make them severe, then it's going to stop teams from doing things like illegal financial embezzlements, whatever it is. And I think in this case, you're absolutely right. If they had known the severity of the outcome after, I can't see a world where they would have done what they did because it's just simply not worth it for a 10-second clip, maybe, of a training video. Well, let's widen this out. We've obviously got the World Cup coming in. We're recording this on the 7th today. The first game is on the 11th of June, so just 4 days away now from when it commences. Do you think if something similar happened there, FIFA would react in the same way as the EFL did, or how do you think that would differ at the World Cup?
Oh, well, I know that the rules have changed anyway, aren't they? So, I mean, FIFA are looking at things from a completely different angle. So, I'm not sure I know the answer to that, James. What I do know, though, is that the refs have been given clear instructions to make sure that if there's any offence or sort of any grabbing, body tugging, or whatever, and
Mm.
a goal gets scored and a defender can't defend because they've been held onto, then
Mm.
actually VAR will have a look at that VAR and that goal could get overturned. So I suppose, I mean, FIFA are already implementing other rules, which again, I'd imagine will filter down into clubs. So another one that's caught my eye is the fact that if a goalkeeper goes down, typically the rest of the team will go back to the benches, get the drinks, but also
Mm.
surreptitiously and not so surreptitiously get instructions from the manager or the coach. And I know FIFA are clamping down on that as well. So if a goalie goes down, yeah, it's a genuine injury, you stay on the pitch. You don't head off to the bench. You stay
Mm.
on the pitch. You don't get further instructions. So I think that's going to be of interest because we've seen more and more incidents where, and I think was it there was a Man City game when the goalie went down, and who was it against? Can you remember? And the opposition manager was a little bit dubious, thinking, actually, do you know what? This doesn't look like a genuine goalkeeper injury. And actually, then all the players went over to the bench, and Man City gave out a load of instructions, as did the other manager. So, there's a few times when it's been called into question. So I think that's only fair. And also, there will be drinks breaks because it's going to be blimmin' hot over there, isn't
Mm,
it? So
absolutely.
you've got your 3-minute break, haven't you? Sort of halfway
Got
through each half.
Yeah, and there's going to be more breaks, but almost for the wrong reasons in a sense that VAR are going to be stepping in a lot more at this World Cup than that you would normally see in the likes of the Premier League, the Champions League. For
Yeah.
example, second yellows they can now have a look at those. They can now recommend refs to look at the monitor and deem if it should be a second yellow card. The same goes for corners. If they give a goal kick or a corner and it's incorrect, they can have a look and change that. Now, I don't mind that in principle, but my only concern is the time it's going to take out of games. If the assistant referees, the video assistant referees, are quick at it and can quickly point out, or the system allows them to do that, great. But if they're having to go and get the referee to check every time, or they're just taking too long to decide, it's just going to really kill games, I feel. And just, football's brilliant when it's fast paced, flowing. VAR already breaks it up enough, a lot of fans feel. So doing these sort of things with corners and yellow cards, I could see there being a bit of an issue with that. And for it to be used at the first time at a World Cup does concern me a little bit, just because you'd like to have a trial in lower leagues at least first, build it up, make sure it works properly before just throwing it into the deep end, the biggest competition in the world. It is a bit frightening in that sense.
Yeah, especially as it's like the biggest World Cup going as well. So, I mean, the games are already depending on where you are in the world. But if you're watching from the UK, I mean, I think we're lucky England and Scotland are games at a relatively decent
Yeah.
time. But there's other teams where it's going to be pretty much in the middle of the night. But again, depends on where you're watching it from the world. So, what's your prediction on the longest amount of extra time that you think is going to be added, or injury time, or whatever?
Well, FIFA and UEFA are definitely had a lot more time on than you'd see in the Premier League already as it is. So with the VAR checks being increased as well at this World Cup, you could see 15 minutes of added time on a few occasions. We already saw that at the last World Cup. I remember the Argentina Netherlands semi final where Netherlands scored in the 101st minute to equalise. And that's not good because players are already tired in that heat. Then they've got to play another half an hour. There's been criticisms of extra time as well, whether that should be scrapped and straight to penalties. There's a lot of things, and
So you say the extra half an hour is in the knockout phase, i.e.,
yes, yeah, yeah.
not in the
Now I'm
group
talking
phase.
about that in the
Yeah.
knockout phase. And the other issue is in that heat, and considering there's 48 teams at this World Cup, if they're just playing more and more minutes, and they've got more games as it is too, you got to start looking at drawing a line on protecting the players essentially, because in that heat, uh, and the American pitches as well. I don't want to criticize them too much, but
Go
they've
on.
they've, they've drawn some criticism. They have at the Club World Cup, and there's even been pictures of Senegal in training trying to bounce the ball on the ground, just dying essentially. Uh,
What is that then about it then? What's the composition? Is it grass? Is it a bit of plastic or
it's a little bit plastic, yeah, and it's a little bit. That's the way they created a few of those pictures out there. Just easier to, when it's raining, for instance, it just drains it really well. For example, there's obviously lots of benefits to it as well. You know what Americans is like as well. They like having lots of concerts, and these are easily removable pitches that allow for hard floor on the ground as well. But those pitches, they're really hard, some of them, and that's not good for the players' feet either. They get stuck in it a bit and feel a bit heavy, and I'm worried it will slow games down a little bit. obviously, I don't want to be too sceptical about the World Cup. We've not really said much good about it so far. Maybe that's because we're not too confident about England more than anything.
Well,
Um,
although actually they've got a good record going in, aren't they? I just want exciting football. I mean, the Euros for me, I just found it dull as dishwater, apart from Bellingham's amazing sort of bicycle kick style goal. But we didn't have many moments of excitement. And I've seen so much sort of dull football over the years supporting QPR. And I just want a bit of excitement through another team. And, is Tuchel the right man for the job? Do you think he's going to take England in a different, more exciting direction? I mean, he's won all of the games, and I'm right in thinking we haven't conceded a goal, have we?
in the qualifiers, we haven't conceded a goal. In terms of Tuchel being the right man, I think he's a good manager. I think he's a good man manager. Uh, I
Is he?
just
Has he got those emotional qualities that Gareth had?
no, no, he's different, but he's. I think he'll get more out of the players because they'll respect him more. Gareth's a lovely guy, and did a really good job for England, but it was a little bit like watching Liam Rosenior, for example, at Chelsea. Seemed like a really nice bloke, but he just doesn't have that experience at the high end of football to deliver, and that's ultimately what cost him. Is the same with Gareth Southgate. And in terms of more exciting under Tuchel, uh, I have to say I can't see that being the case. It's not like the players have drastically changed, and we haven't conceded a goal, but a lot of those games drew a lot of criticism for lack of spark, tentative, slow. And I just think we have to play to our strengths. Sadly, we're not Spain, we're not France. We're a physical side. That's what we'll be. Bellingham in there, Rice. I think there was someone said there's only one or two players in this squad that are under 6 foot tall.
Wow.
Which just shows you we've gone for a really really physical squad, because I think that's the way we're going to be able to win games. We're not going to be able to play passing football like Spain are with the midfielders that they have, in Pedri. Uh, I and so I don't think it will be exciting. I think it'll be a lot of 1-0, 2-0 games potentially, especially during the group stages. And I know that doesn't excite you too much, but
I know, but we had a 1-0 win against New
exactly.
Zealand.
I really can't see it being too different. I think we'll control possession as we have done, and yeah, we'll just make it physical. That we got to play to our strengths, but we won't be able to play football at the same degree as your likes of Spain, France, even Portugal. They've got some outstanding midfielders in Vitinha, Neves, Bruno. We just don't have that.
So I think, yeah, Spain are probably favourites, aren't they? France as
It's
well.
between Spain and France. I think they're definitely the two. They've both got different qualities about them. France's attack is phenomenal, and the depth they've got is phenomenal. Spain have a bit more balance, I'd say, in their midfield, uh, and they've obviously come off the back of just winning the Euros as well, so they're going to be confident. Uh, I do worry a little bit for France defensively, just because Saliba's picked up a bit of an injury recently. If they lose him, they do have other options at the back, but he's a massive player. He's been so good for Arsenal this season, uh, so consistent week in week out.
Is he actually training with them yet or not? Is he? Because I know a lot of the Arsenal team for the England squad, they were late
Yes,
going out, and I don't know if
uh,
they've gone yet.
no. So the Arsenal players that uh, play in the Champions League final that are English, they haven't joined England. I'm not sure about France. If it's, I'm guessing they would have given the French national team would have given them some time off as well. But it just varies from manager to manager. If they want to get all the squad together at the start, they can do that. Um, Tuchel's decided they need a bit more rest, and I think that's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah,
They
they've had a
played
busy
because they've
season.
obviously played 120 minutes as well. Uh, so
Do you think
in that,
Mbappe will be a star that what we all thought he was going to be? Do you think this will be his World Cup?
it's a really interesting one with Mbappe because he's he has had a good season, but sometimes people question whether he limits the team like he did at PSG with his lack of pressing. I personally think he will have a good World Cup, just because I think he's built for World Cups, and I think he scored a hat trick in the final, obviously in 2022, scored in the final in 2018 and won it with them. He's scored in 2 finals now. With a player like that, with that experience and quality, I think he has the minerals to have a really, really successful World Cup. People are more criticizing his personality, yeah, out off the pitch than the way he is on the pitch. No one can deny his quality. It's just whether he's inclusive and uh, supporting of all his teammates that's been brought into question a bit recently.
He's saying he's not a team player.
Yeah, and I think some people sort of make claims that they almost call him a dictator in a way, and that he wants to be central to all the decisions, whether it's at Madrid or in France. I don't. It's hard to buy into that too much.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
We're not in the
listen,
inner circle.
I think Mbappe will have a fantastic World Cup. It's hard to bet against him. He's done it, as I said, on multiple World Cups now, so I can't see why not. And I think France have a really, really good chance to win it.
Yeah, Argentina as well, you can't rule off. And Brazil, they haven't really made their presence felt for a number of years.
Mm.
So do you think we'll see a different Brazil this year? The old Brazil from like the 70s and the 80s?
I don't think they've got the players to win, but Ancelotti's a great manager, and someone like Vinicius Junior, who's a big, big player for Brazil, he's obviously worked with him at Real Madrid. Ancelotti knows how to handle those big egos, which is really important. And I think that's what I was talking about with Tuchel as well. They're a bit firmer, a bit stronger. They know how to handle these egos, whereas someone like a Gareth Southgate wouldn't be able to. Ancelotti's a top manager though, so I think with him, it's plausible that they can go far. I just think they don't have the quality that France and Spain have, and that will ultimately stop them from getting to the pinnacle and winning it.
And Angelotti was at Everton, wasn't he, for a while?
He not, I wouldn't say a while. He was there about a season and a half. It
Yeah.
was. We obviously had a great start under him in that lockdown year, but it kind of fell apart. Just didn't have the squad, and then he went back to Real Madrid in the summer,
And did
which
barnstorming, didn't he?
couldn't really complain that he left us for Real Madrid. But what about you? What do you think in terms of the World Cup? Who have you got your eye on?
Well, Norway actually, because of
Yeah,
Erling Haaland, because he's just this
mm,
Viking god, isn't he?
yeah,
An
yeah,
amazing goal scorer, brilliant talent, and actually, they haven't played. I've got some notes here actually, because just to jog my memory, but they haven't played in the World Cup since 1998, and they've never got past the last 16. But we haven't seen Haaland, have we? The likes of Haaland and the impact that he's going to make. And they were flawless in qualifying. They had 8 matches, and I think they won all of those as well. So a great record coming in.
mm.
So, if they can feed him with the goods, then I think Norway could potentially be a
Actually,
surprise,
dark horse is
really.
it?
And yeah, but I think a dark horse. Yeah. How about yourself?
I I quite fancy Mexico, just
Mexico. Yeah.
just because of the conditions they're going to be used to playing in.
Yeah.
They're going to have the crowd behind them, the heat. They're used to that heat, and that does make a big difference. And that home advantage as well. We saw with Russia in 2018, they went on a fabulous run, got to the quarterfinals, only to then be knocked out by Croatia. But I can see the same happening with Mexico again for sure. So they're my surprise package. Who have you got as your golden boot and your winners?
Golden. Well, I always defer to you, don't I? Over the
Hmm.
years, I've always asked you. So, James, who should I pick?
Well, if you're a punter out there, this is not just for you, mum. This is for anyone who wants a punt at that.
You've always named them, so you're on a
I,
roll, James.
yeah,
What's your
I
preference?
think I've had about
I'm going
in
to
the
write
last
it down. Come on.
the
What's your
last 5 tournaments. I
recommendation?
think I've got 3 of them right.
Yeah.
Um, this is tough. You got to think you got to think who's going to get to the semi-finals for Golden Boot.
So is it got to be France, Spain, one of those, Argentina? Would you have to choose one of those teams? Would you put Italy
I
in
would say
there?
Kylian Mbappe is like the favourite to be a Golden Boot winner.
Oh, really?
Kylian Mbappe for sure. As I mentioned to you, his track record in World Cups, it's it's so good. It's so hard to go against that. And France's attack is so good. He'll have lots of opportunities to score lots of goals, and obviously he'll be playing. You know, he will be the main man. As good as they've got other attacking options, you know, Doué, Dembele, Elise, Cherki, Barcola. They've got so many outstanding players, but Mbappe's the undroppable one. And in terms of who I think will win, this is tricky.
Who's it going to be?
I think Spain. I think Spain. I think Spain in sort of the early 2000s they they won back-to-back tournaments, and they've got a very similar to squad to what they had in 2014. Sorry, not 2014, 2024. And they've obviously got Lamine Yamal, who's probably the most exciting player in the world to watch. Obviously, he's been injured here and there this season, but now he's fit, he's ready to go. Yeah, Spain would be my pick. I would have actually potentially said Portugal. I just think this isn't a criticism of Ronaldo, but it feels like there is a potential to say he's weighing them down a bit. The flip side is they don't really have any better attacking options.
Hmm. But also they've got quite an easy group, Group K, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. So that's Group K
Yeah,
they're in. So that's relatively easy for Portugal, isn't it? Or should be, in
that
theory.
is true. That I think they'll get through their group okay. I'm not saying they won't do that. I just think when they get to playing Spain, Spain will out football them, and I think they've also got a better squad. And I think having a squad is really important this World Cup, as I mentioned, with the heat, the exhaustion, having fit, fast, athletic substitutes is really going to be crucial. And then my player of the tournament, I'm going to give you one of those as well, because why not? I'm going to say there's a lot of good players.
Well, go on. How about your top three?
My top three. Okay, I'll give you my top three. I think I'm going to say
We're waiting.
Pedri for
Right.
Spain. That's one. Vitinha, Portugal. And my third one, I'm going to go a bit outside the box. I'm going to say Jordan Pickford
Oh,
as an Everton
not
fan.
biased at all. No,
Not
I mean
biased.
he is a superstar, isn't he? I mean, he saved so many of your Everton seasons. I mean, you would have probably been in a different league if it wasn't for Jordan Pickford. But anyway, under relatively new management, Everton have sort of changed or turned a corner, haven't they, this season? Actually, interestingly, Canada haven't done particularly well, but they're in a relatively easy group. I think they get through the group stages. They're Group B, aren't they? They've got Bosnia Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. But Switzerland always, put up a good fight, don't they? Actually,
Absolutely.
and we're Group L, England. So we've got Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. And yeah, our games. I mean, we start more towards the end of the first kind of week, don't we? Our first game, I think, is coming up. Is it Wednesday, the 17th of June? So we've got to wait a little bit of time, which is always kind of exciting and nervous and all of that. But it's very strange because before it was like the top two that qualified, wasn't it, from each group? Because now you've got
Mm.
this expanded World Cup with all these teams. So 48 nations up from 32. It means then, I think it's so basically it's the top two teams from the 12 groups, and then the eight best place nations
Yes.
will advance into that round of 32. And then we get back to life as we know it, 32, 16,
Yes. Yeah.
4,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Um, yeah, and it's going to go on for a long time as well, isn't it? So
100%. Listen,
yeah,
this new
39
form.
days.
Yes, I mean this new format undoubtedly helps the smaller teams, the smaller nations for sure. It gives them the opportunity to get through that group stage, even if they finish third. So in that sense, it's great. And for FIFA, it's obviously more money, and there's been a bit of controversy about them and the way they handle certain situations and whether their values aren't quite aligned to what they should be really, and whether they're just exploiting people for money. But regardless of that, it's certainly good for those smaller nations. But for the nations like England, it's obviously more minutes to play. Not necessarily easy either. Banana skin games. You look at that Slovakia game that Bellingham scored that last minute overhead kick against. Nearly got knocked out there. So these are not easy games. There'll be tight games in there, and I'm certain there'll be a few shocks in the round of 32. It's a new system. So
Yeah.
definitely some teams are going to get shocked. I think they're going to get found out.
Yeah, I suppose my expectations are relatively low at this stage because I've had so many disappointments
Mm,
over the years. I mean, you were at the Euros, weren't you, a couple of years ago? So you saw all of that
yes.
unfold and you had an amazing time, didn't you? Just the partying, the
Mm,
socializing, and all of that goes with football. But yeah, it just wasn't the most exciting to watch on telly. And I love the Euros in general because I always think the standard of football is high. So my only concern about the World Cup by expanding it to all these teams, yes, it's giving those smaller countries a
mm,
chance to appear at the first time. Who wouldn't want that? But it means then we're going to have probably poorer quality games overall in comparison to the Euros. For me, the Euros are the gold standard. And
absolutely.
I just don't know whether we'll replicate that here, particularly with the heat and the conditions in America, because most of the games will be in America, not so many in Mexico and Canada. The US have the lion's share. But actually, just going back again, just something we didn't discuss when we were talking about Spygate is that that's not over yet, because the FA
Mm, yeah,
still are looking into this. So
yeah,
Eckhart could actually get banned from English football.
you could.
And that is the ultimate punishment. So I know the owner of Southampton is standing by him at the moment, but actually you may have no choice. And I'm just thinking, I heard through the grapevine that actually if Eckhart does have to stand down, can you guess who might come in as a replacement to steady the ship? And you've known him. He's been an Everton manager. Who could it be?
Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
Wow,
So potentially, because he knows Championship football, doesn't he?
he does.
Is that inspirational enough, do you think? Do you think the Southampton fans will
I
think,
don't
oh,
think they'll
joy?
be particularly pleased with Dyche. But if he gets them up, he knows how to do it in the Premier League. He knows how to keep teams up. So in the short term, they might not be so keen. But if it works out, then why not? And finally, I've obviously given you my predictions. I just want to hear who your World Cup winners will be.
Who my World Cup winners will be? I'm going to go for France because of Mbappe, because I listen to you and who you
Yeah,
think is going to be a top goal scorer.
yeah.
You haven't been wrong in the past, so it'd be interesting to see if you can hold on to your record. So I'm going with France, but of course I'd love England to win. Who wouldn't if you're an English fan? And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the Tartan Army do. They always bring the party to the occasion as well, and had a great warm-up game, winning 4-0. So I don't know if that's a sign of things to come or that was just a one-off and they were up against easier opposition. I don't know. But yeah, I think France will potentially take home the cup. I mean, they've had a lot of glory, haven't they? France and Spain. It's a shame that they can't share the love, and the likes of England can, I don't know, um, replace that hurt of all those years. I mean, the ladies have done it for us, but it'd be nice if the men could bring it home. So it'd be a nice surprise, but I'm not putting my money on it.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Nadine. We will be
Mum.
back, or Mum. We'll be back next week talking about the first week of the World Cup, the games. I'm sure there'll be some VAR controversies to go over. So I look forward to seeing you
Lots of love.
then.